having me here. It's really an honor to be here and to be a part of this panel. Can everyone hear me and understand me? Great. Okay, so my name is Sarah Newell. I work for the International Labor Rights Forum, and we're an NGO based here in DC that has been working on projects in Cambodia for about 30 years. Since we've been around, and we specifically work with the garment workers in Cambodia and the garment industry, which, as you know, is a significant portion of the GDP and a really, really significant industry in Cambodia. So right now, we are working on a project to support grassroots unions and NGOs in Cambodia in securing rights for garment workers who are 85% women. And this is an especially important initiative in light of the recent closing civil society space. So I just returned from Cambodia last week, actually, where we spent 2 weeks there getting the project underway. We're working with an NGO called Central and 2 grassroots unions, Sikadu and Kchao. So the goal of this project is to foster women's leadership in creating strong worker protections for garment workers. Maybe you're familiar with some of the mass faintings that have happened at factories throughout Cambodia because of the poor nutrition rates and the high heat in the factories. So that's an issue we really want to address and make sure that these are jobs with dignity, that these are jobs with safe working conditions, and that people aren't being injured on the job because corporations don't want to put forth the money to make sure that there's proper air conditioning and proper nutrition in these factories. One of the other issues we're working on is launching an international advocacy campaign against the recent trade union law that's been passed in Cambodia. So this is the law that, that makes it much more difficult for unions to form and for unions to be able to organize workers if they are not aligned with the CPP. So CPP unions are still able to organize workers, but if you're not aligned with that political party, it's become really, really difficult to negotiate contracts that protect working conditions and wages in the factories. And there's also a draft minimum wage law that maybe some of you are familiar with that, if passed, would make it illegal for anyone to do research on the minimum wage or to write about the minimum wage for the garment industry in Cambodia in a way that's different from the official government position. So this is really concerning both to international NGOs and Cambodian NGOs who want to be able to do research, and journalists and academics who think it's important to study the minimum wage and not accept what's given by the government without further investigation. So we're working on coordinating both Cambodian NGOs and international NGOs to speak out against these both draft and passed laws. So in response to the question of the panel, I think as someone who's not Cambodian, obviously, and who's representing an international NGO, our role is really to follow Khmer leadership, both in Cambodia and here, and figure out what it is where we can be best positioned and what we can do to help and to spread resources around. A major goal of this project is to provide general support and funding and opportunities and access for Cambodian NGOs that are supporting Cambodian workers but having difficulty organizing and getting funding and getting things like offices and staff members and just the basics like that. So that's where we think we can come in and help. One of the other projects we worked on is bringing a woman named b.ung.kpnc, who is the president of the Cambodia Alliance of Trade Unionists, which represents 10,000 garment workers in Cambodia. We came with her here to the US to travel for 5 weeks and discuss the conditions in factories in Cambodia and the way that people in the United States and in Europe can support initiatives that are taking place in those same factories. And we actually had a chance to visit the museum in Chicago that the gentleman referenced earlier, which is a terrific museum. We got to meet some of your artists in residence, and to build relationships between the workers organizing in Cambodia and Khmer workers here in the US who are working on their own projects in the labor movement. So yeah, in conclusion, I think it's really important that international NGOs follow the leadership of folks on the ground here and in Cambodia. And thank you so much for having me here.